This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham. I'm Scott McPike, your host again. Calum McClurkin here as always. Calum, I don't mean to say that we've had 4 great weeks racing up to now, but this week was unbelievable, wasn't it? I loved it.
Yeah, particularly Fairyhouse at Sunday, kicking back, watching all the stars kind of go at it, and yeah, it was very good, high quality stuff.
Brilliant. There's plenty to get through, so let's just make a wee start straight away by the recap. We'll start off on Friday at Newbury. Brave Man's Game won a 2 mile 4 novices hurdle. I thought it was impressive. Paul Nicholls trained into 16th one for Ballamore. I thought he's a good traveller and he's certainly one to watch for that race.
Indeed, yeah, he was well backed. He travelled really powerfully against the market leader, but he was kind of quick to dispute favouritism. Got there in front of a decent kind of looking Henderson horse, and beat him by 7.5 lengths quite convincingly. He looks a good Ballamore candidate for Paul Nicholls. The Shallow Hurdle will probably tell more about his Grade 1 aspirations, but it was a very taking performance.
I think he's certainly, you mentioned the Shallow Hurdle there, I think he's certainly going to be up at the top of the market for that, if that is the plan where he's going to go. But we'll move on to Caribbean Boy, also on Friday in Newbury, beat Fiddler on the Roof. 2 mile 3 furlong. The takeaway I've got from it, obviously Caribbean Boy is no longer a novice, so he'll probably end up in a Ryanair or potentially a handicap. He's 25, so the Ryanair, but Fiddler on the Roof definitely needs a step up in trip.
Yeah, and I think the ground was turning against him a little bit as well. He was always off the bridle, struggling to keep up with Caribbean Boy, who was very good. I thought, he didn't jump like a novice. Caribbean Boy's French form entitled him to need soft ground as well, which he didn't get. So it's quite a taking performance. He was outside of the 3 as well, so that kind of suggested that he might have needed it as well. So no, it was a good effort.
Definitely. We'll move on to in my mind, the race of the week, the long distance hurdle. Time Hill beat Paisley Park, McFabulous. Somerville Boy, Lisnagar, Oscar were also in the race. I thought Time Hill was very, very good. I thought it kept on strongly, showed that the 3 mile trip's not going to be a problem for him. Paisley Park, obviously coming back off the heart defect last year, ran very, very well. And McFabulous, I just think, didn't stay. What was your overall kind of takeaways for that race?
Yeah, I agree with you on McFabulous. I don't think he quite got home. It was an interesting race to watch because everyone was kind of reluctant to go forward. They kind of stood still for a minute at the start, which was a bit odd. And then I think Robbie Power took it up and visioned the flow about halfway. The first half kind of went a crawl, and then the second half he went quite really hard. The front 2 were definitely the best 2 of the race. Paisley Park shaped with a lot of encouragement after bombing out in the stairs hurdle a little bit. He probably would have wanted a more sustained gallop, a stronger pace.
Yeah, definitely.
Time Hill was kind of the young progressive horse up and coming, and he looked very good, and he will improve for that run as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and two very bright prospects there.
Yeah, see with like McFabulous, before we touch on the front 2, like, do you think McFabulous will stay at 3 miles, or do you think he could be a potential Coral Cup horse?
Yeah, I think he's a 2.5 miler all day. I think he's more of a chaser as well. I always had that opinion of him, even when he won the Persian War. I'm still not convinced he's a Cheltenham horse though. Right, I think he's tailor made for the Aintree Hurdle, something like that. I got a Grade 1 at the Grand National Festival. I think it's probably more his cup of tea. Yeah,
obviously the Stairs Hurdle we'll touch on later on, but Time Hill and Paisley Park, who would you kind of side with? Time Hill's 5-1 and Paisley Park's 11-2. Who would you, if you'd a match bet, who would you pick out of those 2 for the Stairs?
I would lean towards Time Hill. I think he's younger. He's probably more progressive.
Yeah, I think that's well.
With Paisley Park, I think you just get that kind of slight doubt in the back of your mind about last year. It's still going to be there, and the Albert Bartlett form looks rock solid.
Definitely, it does. Speaking of the Albert Bartlett, we'll touch on the winner of it on Saturday at Fairyhouse. Monkfish was impressive in his beginner's chase. He jumped left, but I wouldn't say that would worry me in the slightest for Cheltenham. It was a canter considering who was in the race. Like Sam's Profile, DLK were both in the race. Both horses I thought were good last year. I thought he was very, very impressive. He's into 5-1 favourite for the RSA. I think he's rock solid.
Yeah, you can certainly see why he's been shortened into that kind of price. He was very good again. Albert Bartlett winner, obviously. He looked very slow last year.
Yeah.
In his chasing debut, he looked quicker through a fence than he did over a hurdle, which is probably an ominous sign for most of his rivals that he's coming up. As he said, he wasn't beating any mugs that had experience, and he just cruised by them. And particularly the second last, he just picked up. It was really, really comfortable. There's plenty more in the tank, and yeah, he looks I mean, people are already talking about the Gold Cup 2022 with him already, and you can see he's high class.
See, just when we touch on that as well, obviously we've seen the big breakaway as well, and they looked to be the two leading contenders for the RSA. Were you more impressed with Monkfish or the big breakaway?
Probably Monkfish, because I think he was probably taking on slightly better opposition. I think.
Yeah, I think
that's the big breakaway.
Yeah. We'll move on to the Mares Hurdle. Concertista won over 2 miles 3 furlong. I'm not saying this was the performance of the weekend, but it was certainly something I didn't expect. I didn't expect Concertista to take to 2 miles 3 so well, and it was a very good race with Manila Melody behind her and Queen's Brook, but she was very, very good. Concertista 5-1 for the Mares Hurdle. Do you think she's too short?
I think that's a fair price. This was a very good performance from a horse that is normally relied upon as a spring horse. She normally needs her first couple of runs at the start of the season. This was, I mean, Manila Melody went off favourite for Mares Novice's hurdle, and she ran quite well. I mean, she won the last two flights, and Concertista was just cruising in behind. Paul Townend was supremely confident every time, knew exactly what he had underneath her. It was a bit of a machine performance, I thought. Yeah, I think she's a massive threat anywhere where she turns up.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. The last horse to mention Saturday at Fairyhouse was Hook Up, won a 2 mile maiden hurdle. She was very, very impressive. Wasn't the best jumping performance, but she will no doubt improve on that. 10-1 for the Mares Novice. Are you a Hook Up fan?
I am. I'm slightly annoyed because she was in one of my long range radars at the start of the season, even though she disappointed in the Triumph, but she made it all, and that has been the massive difference to her because she was dropped in the Triumph. Obviously, there was so much pace that was going to dominate that race anyway. It didn't work. Fairyhouse, when she was beat by Burning Victory again, she was held up. It didn't work, and just utilising her engine from the front made a world of difference to her. She was a bit airy at a couple. Her jumping can be brushed up upon. But yeah, no, she's a player. She has to improve a little bit more, I think. But she certainly can do.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Hook Up. Newbury on Saturday, next destination won the John Frankham over 2 miles 7, 20-1 now for the RSA. A very good performance considering where this horse has been this time last year. But are we reading too much into it that this horse could be back to its best?
Given his in and out profile, there's a possibility of that. Ex-Willie Mullins, of course, Paul Nicholls seems to have picked up quite a lot recently.
Yeah.
The ground at Newbury was quite quick, and I don't think that would have been his best advantage. So you probably preferred softer on the day, and I think that's a worry for Paul Nicholls going to Kempton. To keep this horse sound, I think you'd want to keep him away for that good ground again. He probably needs a little bit of cut to be seen to best effect, but he's shown his old spark, and on his novice hurdling form, his novice days, he's probably dangerous, but you'd like to see him back that up though first before diving in, I think.
Yeah, I would like to. I don't know if it might be too early, but if he went to the Cotto Star, I think he would have a chance. Move on to Newcastle. The big race was the Fighting's 5th hurdle, and we saw pure class. Epiton, now 7-4 for the champion hurdle. I don't even know how to put this into words. Aidan Coleman was on her for the first time, and I think he gave her a tremendous ride. Jumped lovely, jumped like she's jumped all last season. Just scooted by So Royal, who I thought was doing pretty well, was the front runner. It was just pure class. I think she's a champion hurdle winner already, and I know we've still to see the likes of Goshen, and we could potentially have Honeysuckle in that mix, which we'll touch on later. But Epiton is absolutely, she was sensational.
You wouldn't be in any rush to oppose her, that's for sure.
No.
The one quibble you would have is how the race fell apart at the start.
Yeah.
We not so sleepy, kind of ducking at the first, carrying out Silver Streak, who'd potentially be the biggest threat on the day. It left Scu Royale hampered by a loose horse and making the running, which is something that he certainly doesn't want.
Yeah, definitely.
She galloped all over him, and I mean everyone knows how much left was in the tank, and it was probably the petrol gauge was still at full. It was that simple for her. The Third Ribble Valley needs softer ground to compete in this level. So yeah, she probably won with about a stone in hand, and that's including her allowance at least.
Yeah, I know. It's the two things I would take away from it is that she went straight into 74. She was 72 at the start of the race. Is that too short? Probably in November it is, but again, what's going to beat her for that race right now?
Yeah, the two things in her favour and why she's in the price that she should be, which I think is about 74, is that the opposition haven't really proved themselves yet against the main market principles. I mean, you still get Santwa and Abacadabra immediately in behind her in the market, and that was a muddling race, as muddling as a fighter fighting fifth, and they certainly didn't show as much class as she did.
No.
The second thing in her favour is that she did prove to me that the champion hurdle was certainly no fluke.
No.
And it wasn't a totally weak renewal, and there is more progression in store as well, I think. So, I mean, you're looking at her already clearing the ratings, already with that £7 that she holds. It's going to take a very, very, very good gelding to go and beat her at the moment, and at the moment I can't see what that is at the moment.
No, me neither. I thought she was absolutely sensational. We'll move on to Sunday in Fairyhouse. Let's just touch on the four big races. We'll start off with the Grade 3 Juvenile hurdle. Zanny here won that. Very, very impressive for Gordon Elliott. Gordon Elliott has got a wealth of talent in the bumpers and juveniles, but that could be the top of the tree. I thought he was absolutely sensational. Looks a superstar. 5-1 for the Triumph. What was your thoughts in Zanaha?
It was an excellent performance, comfortably the best juvenile performance I've seen, and another one that annoyed me slightly because he was on my radar and I thought that he might be better than Calixios before I plumped for Flying Scotsman for the Triumph, which was a mistake. Who has an entry in Cork this weekend? But
does he?
Yeah, high hopes there indeed, because it'll take something special to beat Zana here, because I think he recorded the fastest time on the day in comparison to standard times over there on a Sunday that was full of quality. So yeah, no, he's certainly now leaping to Triumph favouritism, and he's certainly the one to beat.
Do you think he was just, obviously you touched on Calixios as well, both trained by the same man. Do you think there is a Zanahir's 5-1 and Calixios is 10-1? Do you think there's that big a difference between them?
Yeah, I think there probably is. I think Calixios is going to set the standard. I think he's got a rock solid Fred Winterhorse and Dufflecoat, which is the third favourite in that. Yeah. So he's holding all the early aces for sure. There'll be other horses that we haven't seen yet that might get to that level, that might have a different profile. But it was over 2 mile 2 as well. So any fears about whether he's going to stay or not will be unfounded. So he looks to be quite forward as well as a juvenile, uncomplicated. Ticks a lot of boxes even at this early stage. Yeah,
it was an excellent performance. The only thing I would just say now is 5-1 for the Triumph in the beginning of December. I would oppose, but again, a very, very good performance. She's definitely the right favourite, and certainly want to see him again. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him again. We'll move on to the 3 Grade 1s. We'll start with the Royal Bond. Ballyadam won comfortably. I wouldn't say he was overly fluent. I mean, we'll touch it. We've both spoke about this off the air about the price. He's now 6-1 favourite for the Supreme. I'll ask you 2 questions about it. A, is he the right favourite? And B, was he impressive?
I don't think he's the right favourite. I think Fernie Hall should be clear favourite for this at the moment. If they go there, of course, that's probably the doubt about Fernie Hall's price. He was impressive enough. He was safe rather than spectacular, I think, through the majority. I mean, he obviously had probably a decent £5-7 in hand up his sleeve because he wasn't really asked at the end, even though N'Golo was kind of coming home with a wet sail.
I really like him, N'Golo. I think he needs a trip, but I think N'Golo could certainly be one to watch.
Yeah, he does need further, that's for sure. Caskmate also would have preferred a stronger pace to aim at. He was second. It was a good enough performance. He's obviously got class. He stays well enough, I think. He's got enough speed, but for a supreme favourite right now, you really want a marker set down. I don't think he's done that yet. I mean, he beat second and third who are rated, 137 and 138. So you think he's got £7 in hand of them, maybe they improved. It's a high 140, low 150 performance, and for a supreme favourite, that's not quite the standard that you're looking for yet.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot to improve on with him, but again, you can only beat what's in front of you, and he beat them convincingly. It wasn't. I wouldn't say he jumped well. I wouldn't say he jumped badly, but I wouldn't say he jumped well. That's certainly it. And obviously we've touched on like past winners of this, and the past winners like last year, Envoy we knew he was just all class, and we even took away second place as potentially all class. I don't see that same thing coming here, and that worries me slightly with this race. But we'll move on to the Drinmore, and I'm just gonna say one thing. This performance to me was as good as you'll see this season. Just how easy it was for him. Envoy 5-4 now for the Marsh. Jump lovely, just an absolute class horse. Just where do you? I think we'll just call it the Envoy show because it's turning into that. Every week is just something more to say about him. He's just different class.
Yeah, ignore the tips, just back Envoy Allen. That's all you need to do. NHS workers in Scotland, £500 bonus, put it in Envoy Allen, make a grand out of it.
Definitely.
This was a superb performance. The only possible chink in his armour at the moment is that he's frightening away opposition already. And he won't get that luxury at Cheltenham. So
do you think he won't know? Because look at the likes of Duvan, the likes of Altior. They find the way up. How many horses went up in trip the year? We saw the year Duvan won at he beat Size and John. That was it. Size and John was in it. Size and John obviously went on and won a Gold Cup, but Size and John wasn't a 2-miler. And I don't see. I think a lot of horses are going to dodge him and go up and trip. I think it's the same with Shishkin. I think we're going to see a 4 and 5 runner fields in these races and a 20 runner field in the RSA.
Yeah, potentially. But I thought Monkfish was quite good as well, so I would be looking to avoid him as well. I know.
Or as you said a couple of weeks ago, do you dodge Cheltenham and just go to Aintree?
Yeah, you could. Or just stay Ireland. I didn't see easy work. Easy work was kind of he was meant to be entered and he didn't go.
So Andy Dufresne as well.
I still think he's probably second best to Envoy Allen at this. There are a couple decent 2.5 miles in Britain. Protector, that's one that kind of pops to mind.
Yeah.
So, but it was a spectacular performance from Envoy Allen Sunday. It was. I mean, the way he toyed with Assemble was like a form of kind of cruelty. It was like a cat with a ball of string, you know. I mean, he just Assemble. Rachel Blackmore couldn't do anything more with Assemble.
No.
I mean, she was selective in her challenge. So I'll press him at this fence, press him 2 out, try my utmost. Nothing bothered him at all. It was a bit of a muddling gallop. I would like to see him run with a bit more opposition over 2.5 miles at a truer pace. But how can you knock him though? I mean, he's just beating everything out of sight.
I think as well, just the hurdles form is tremendous. Bumper form is tremendous. Yeah, he hasn't beat a lot over fences, but you can't knock his jumping, you can't knock his travelling. He's too. If there wasn't I would actually say if there wasn't a novices chase division, he would be my pick for the Gold Cup. I really, really think he's that good a jumper. Now, obviously, we're talking about will he stay 3 miles? I don't think there's any doubt he can do anything. Yeah,
and there's no need to bottom him though. I mean, it's also 3 mile 2. I mean, it's done as a novice, and Coney Gree did it. It's not entirely impossible.
He wouldn't. No, they'll keep him over. They'll keep him over novice. But
definitely.
The point I'm making is that I wouldn't be if I was Gordon Elliott and I was something, the Gold Cup fell apart, I wouldn't rule it out because he's just out. He's that good a horse, but he's the banker for me. But I'm going to just ask you. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, you tipped the double a Shishkin and Envoy Len. Was it 9-1 then?
10-1.
10-1. What is it now?
It's 11-2.
It's 11-2. It's still a great price, isn't it?
It's still not bad. 11-2, 5-1 places. But I think this might be the return of the festival hot pots. With Epatante and Monkfish potentially. Eases Land is quite popular still. There's a lot of favourites that are can be quite heavily fancied at the minute.
Yeah. The only thing that would put me off that is though, like the last couple of years, I think there's been 5 favourites. There's been 10 odds-on favourites or near enough odds-on, and only 2 of them have won. So that would put me off ever so slightly. But again, we can't knock just how good that. The final horse to touch on was on Sunday at Fairyhouse in the Hatton's Grace. Honeysuckle, she was back, but I wouldn't say she was at her best. I think she did enough to win, but again, they were talking about the champion hurdle after this. I know last year I was the person saying Honeysuckle must go for the champion hurdle, but I think her jumping would get caught out if she went for a champion hurdle. I think 2 mile 4's her trip. 3-1 for the mare, so she hasn't really changed, but beat 2 good horses behind her in Ronald Pump and Beacon Edge. They're both good horses. They both ran very good races, but I'm the biggest fan of Honeysuckle in the world probably, but I wasn't overly impressed with her.
No, my ratings anyway. She was running £7 inferior, so in my opinion on the day, the mare's allowance probably helped her win. She never looked like she was going to lose though. I mean, she's comfortable enough from the front. She just jumps slowly, sometimes at key times. I mean, 2 out, she was a bit slow, and it kind of gave Beacon Edge a chance, although I don't think he quite got home. And then she accelerated away. She just knows how to win, which is a brilliant asset, obviously.
Oh, definitely.
Her unbeaten record says it all. I think she's benefited from some terrific rides from Rachel Blackmore. I think she got one again last weekend from the front, dictated quite well, stacked them up when need be, and it turned into a test of speed when Ronald Pump got going just a bit too late in the day to reel her in.
I think
it was impressive enough. It was impressive enough for me. As a seasonal debut, the Irish Champion Hurdle will reveal a lot more.
Yeah. My only worry about the Irish Champion Hurdle would be is she going to jump well enough to do that? She obviously last year, again, it was probably a stamina that won her the race. She had a terrible jump at the last hurdle and come back. Her stamina kind of showed and she won the race by a length. But her most impressive performance last year was in the Hatton's Grace, and she was excellent that day. I didn't see that this year. I said last year I thought Honeysuckle would have won the champion hurdle if she went there, but right now viewers will probably be amazed that I'm the one doubting Honeysuckle, but I don't think she would beat Epatante. I don't think she would beat Epatante at champion hurdle trip, but I think she would beat Epatante at mares hurdle trip. So it's just 2 different trips to suit 2 different horses. That's probably the thing. But I would say it's very, very difficult for Honeysuckle to beat Epatante. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Maybe not, but again, it's her attitude to win. The way she finds is quite something. We haven't really seen Epatante in a battle. If there's a strong pace and that Cheltenham Hill kind of comes to play, and there is an element of stamina needed in the champion hurdle, I wouldn't. If they're upsides over the last, Epatante's trying to slipstream Honeysuckle, you know which one for sure is going to definitely grind and have a battle. The way Epatante, nothing's quite been probably good enough to really mount a challenge and ask that question over, when it gets tough, what are you going to do about it? And the mare's Novice, she had no answers.
Yeah.
That has to be remembered. I know that might have just been a freak thing and you could just block that out of your mind completely. But if there was something that genuinely laid down a challenge to her,
that would be interesting.
Against a fight up the home straight, I would take Honeysuckle over anything at the moment, I would think.
Yeah, I can see that point of view. But that is our recap for the week. Every week in the show, we take a look at a big race at the festival, and this week it is the turn of the Stairs Hurdle. Now, we've seen a very, very good test with the long distance over the weekend, so let's get right into the prices. We'll start off with the favourite, Time Hill at 5-1, 2019 champion Paisley Park at 11-2, Sire de Belle 7-1, Benny de Dieu 8-1, McFabulous 10s, Fury Road 12s, Ronald Pump 14s, Somerville Boys 16s, and 20-1 bar. Callum, again, we saw a great tester of the British contenders here, but when I asked you the question about Time Hill and Paisley Park, who would you prefer out of them? What is it about Time Hill that you just think is your thinking kind of going into this race with Time Hill?
I'm just more encouraged about he's probably got a lot more to offer than Paisley Park.
Yeah,
we kind of know what Paisley Park has done. We know what he's beat. Probably the biggest race he's had that he's won was against an ageing Thistlecrack in the race at Newbury last year.
Yeah,
beaten by a length, scrambled home. Paisley Park doesn't travel the best. He always finds, though, usually, most often not. He kind of hits this flat spot and it's a turbo and goes in. But Time Hill doesn't do that. I mean, he's all class. He stays, travels smoothly. The way he did it on Saturday was very impressive. Philip Hobbs says he needed the run as well. So on top of natural improvement, there'll be a fitness improvement as well. Yeah, I think he could probably go places, and we know what Paisley Park's beat in last year's renewal. The form doesn't look great, does it? So
no.
I think you want to side with the kind of up-and-comers, the ones that haven't kind of been over course and distance recently.
Yeah. We'll move on to the best of the Irish. Sire de Belle sitting at 7-1. 2-time per temps winner. Was very, very impressive last time out. I think if we're going by experience and we're going by Cheltenham form, I think this horse could be very, very difficult to oppose.
Yeah, indeed. There's nothing flashy about him, but he just seems to get it done, doesn't he?
He's just a typical Stairs horse, yeah.
Yeah, he just grinds. He grinds away. He's won 2 pair tops, which is quite something. The last renewal that he won at a time that was quicker than actual Stairs hurdle.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that he's going to go there. He's rated 158, which £7 inferior to Paisley Park. So he's probably got a little bit of work to do to get there, but he's very likeable and he's tough, and yeah, he's certainly going to be in the frame.
Yeah, Benny de Dieu sitting at 8-1 now. Obviously, the big thing here is she going to go? We've touched on the Mare's Chase as well. That could be an option for her, but I think she would definitely have a chance in this if she turned up.
Yeah, but if she was, it should have been last year when it was really winnable.
Yeah.
This year's race looks better, looks more open, certainly more interesting, and you've got to remember that she's now a year older as well. I had no idea where she would go prior to this week. Obviously, we haven't seen her yet, but more and more I'm convinced that they might go the Mare's Chase route with her. Yeah, they have spoken. Just a gut feeling. Yeah, they have spoken and said that we might not see her till the turn of the year, I think. But my worry about her over fences would be, we've kind of heard from Rich Ritchie a couple of times in the past about she takes a long time to recover over fences. If you send her over fences before Cheltenham, is she going to recover in time to put in a good performance going into the festival? That would be my worry going over fences, but I would give her a big mention if she turned here, but I would say it's probably unlikely. McFabulous 10-1, we've touched on him. He's probably not a 3 mile stayer unless he severely improves, but he's a very, very good horse. Yeah, he might develop into one next year. Yeah, that'll be probably over fences as well. So yeah, he's not for me this year, but I wouldn't write him off for other assignments, but no, not for this. No, I'm a big fan of McFabulous, but just not at this trip. Fury Road 12-1 now. My thing with Fury Road is Time Hill. I think Time Hill would have won the ballot if he get the gap, but Fury Road at 12s and Time Hill's 5s to me is pretty weird.
I don't know if it's because Time Hill's won a very, very good race and Fury Road's kind of just did a couple of schooling sessions, but Fury Road at 12-1 to me seems big.
Yeah, there's a value in the race for you, I think.
Yeah, I think that.
I mean, the Albert Bartlett form has been very well advertised. Fury Road was probably secretly quite fancied in Ireland. I think he's probably the number one there for that race.
Yeah.
Didn't quite pan out for him. It certainly didn't pan out for Time Hill though, so he had to switch 3 times during that to the outside, shuffle back every single time. Even the fifth of that race, Yanadil, he's came out and won a good beginner's chase in taking fashion. So the Albert Bartlett, as most people suspected, the right horses came to the fore, and I think they're all probably quite decent. The thing is, Fury Road hasn't quite the race, and I think a lot of people were expecting him to be better over fences than hurdles as well.
I thought he was going to go fences.
I think people are a little bit surprised that they're saying hurdles and maybe a bit reluctant to kind of go in him. But 12-1, you could certainly make an each way case for him if he's going to take the plunge.
Ronald Pump sitting at 14-1 as well. Another horse I think is quite a bit overpriced. Just that state, like, you don't need to be a class horse to win the Stairs Hurdle. You just need to stay. And I think Ronald Pump's going to stay and stay and stay. Obviously second in it last year. Where do you think Ronald Pump's a contender in this race?
Yeah, I think he is. He absolutely clattered the last in the Stairs Hurdle that day when he was travelling better than listening to Oscar, I thought at the time. Yeah. The jockey was maybe slightly overconfident that he had it in the bag. Probably saw he was in front of him and everyone else beat in behind and went, oh, this is happy days. And the horse and jockey took the eye off the last hurdle, was ploughed through it, gallantly went on, beaten by a couple of lengths. The thing is, the winner has done nothing for the form since. No. That would be the issue. He did rattle home quite well against Honeysuckle. He was taking on. He did fall the time before behind Sire de Berley.
Yeah.
But he was campaigned strangely last year, and because of the open nature of the Stairs Hurdle, Matthew Smith kind of just chucked him in. He like runs over fences and over different trips, and it was all quite peculiar. I think he's got a more kind of settled preparation here. He's got a rating of 156, which puts him in the frame. But again, you look at the front two and you think they're in form. They're mid 160s operators. Is Ronald Pump 8 turning 9 going to improve to be a win contender in challenges too? I'm not so sure.
But we'll move on as well to Somerville Boy, also won the Supreme a few years ago. 16-1, but again, we'll need to severely improve to touch any of the front of the market.
I don't think he wants this trip, to be honest. I think he should abandon the 3 mile plan and go 2.5 with him.
Do you not think? I don't. With the 5 day things come up again about the festival being 5 days with 6 races each day. If they were to go down that road, do you not think there is a potential for a 2 mile 4 hurdle race?
Potentially, yeah. There's 2 ways of looking at this. One way is it should be 4 days and it should be kind of a bit less racing and it should be more elite. So they should get rid of the intermediate stuff. Get rid of some of the mare stuff. Get rid of some of the handicaps, stuff like that, and make it quality. Or if you're a big Cheltenham fan, make it 5 days and give the full shebang, like veterans chases, an intermediate hurdle, a mare's novice chase as well.
Possibly.
Would be probably under consideration as well. So I think it's unfair. You're looking for a good mare's chase winner the first day. This is why my theory that Benny Dadu will go this way is that if you're a novice and you've got to go and kind of potentially take on, put the kettle on, stuff like that, who already have a year's under their belt at the festival, it's quite hard for a mare's novice to be pitched in like that.
Definitely.
So it's either go all in or not, and I think Cheltenham are kind of betwixt and between at the moment.
I think it's something that's going to. I don't agree with it. My dad's always said to me like he preferred it when it was just 3 days because the best horses turned up, and now you've got the 4 days where I think a lot of horses that shouldn't be there do turn up. But again, it's something that we can debate on later on in the series. But is there any kind of horses kind of further down the betting that you think could have a chance? Because I've got one that's screaming out to me, but I'll let you go first.
I'll have 2. If it pans out exactly like last year, Leslie Oscar is exactly the same price as last year.
Is he?
If that means bottomless. That means something goes off champion hurdle pace like Appleseed did last year.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that lives with it, and he's the last one to get home. So if it turns into a complete war of attrition, he'd probably come back into your equation if you can find that angle, which looks a bit unlikely at the moment, the Classy. Another one I want to mention, and only one bookmaker has quoted it so far, is On the Blind Side.
Right, okay.
It's probably a bit fanciful. He's a 150 rated, but he was a really talented novice back in the day. He was kind of touted to be the chief threat to Sam Crow's year when he won the Ballymore.
Yeah.
And he was rated 153 as a novice hurdler. He's 150 now. He won last time out at Cheltenham, which was an unbelievable performance because he didn't travel particularly well, though he's usually a strong traveller. He hit almost every hurdle and still won from a really big weight. Nicky Henderson, I don't think, has got anything for this race at all.
Yeah.
And having a pot shot here, I think Betfair are the only bookie that put him up. He's 50-1, and I wouldn't entirely rule it out as he's a back marker that they might just throw him in here because they've got nothing else.
Yeah.
He's only an 8-year-old at the moment, so and he was previously high class. Going over fences didn't work horribly. He seems like a confidence horse to me, and if he's rebuilt that confidence and he can take another step forward, which he'll obviously have to, but he is capable. And I think in a market where I was really struggling to find anything out of the top two, to be honest, that were really interesting, I think he's the big price dart that would maybe intrigue a few people.
I've got one at 25-1 for Willie Mullins, Great White Shark. Now, again, was decent. I think it finished third in the Martin Pipe, if I remember correctly. Decent horse. Brings a bit of flat form as well. Isn't the best of jumpers, but again, if he can stay the track, I think he's very, very worth a mention. I think the problem with Great White Shark is as well, is he going to jump well enough? But if he does, then I think 25-1 could be a very, very good buy each way value. But we'll move on to your side of this. We'll talk about stats. What do the viewers need to look for when they're picking the winner for this race, Calum?
Yes, all the last 4 winners have been age 7.
Right.
So it's kind of quite interesting. The younger the better. There's only been 2 winning favourites in the last 8 years. Paisley Park 2019, Thistlecrack.
Yeah.
9 of the last 12 winners have been rated at least 156 or higher.
Right, okay.
I mean, Leslie Garosca was rating the mid 140s. It was on official ratings, the worst winner of the race this century, according to the official handicapper. Maybe most people's opinion, but it's another day. And warm-up's important for this. It's 6 of the last 12 have at least ran in the Cleeve Hurdle.
Right, okay.
It's their last run as a warm-up.
Yeah.
With 4 of them winning, doing the same at Cheltenham, and 1 being placed. So that seems to be quite a key race, and it gives an indication that British runners do quite well in this.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a race that the British horses have done really well in. Can I just ask you what you think is going to win this race right now?
If they keep him sound and straight, I think Time Hill will win it.
I think Time Hill's the one to beat, but I'm going to give a mention to Fury Road, and that is your look at the Stairs Hurdle. We'll move on to what is going on this week in the world of racing now. Tingle Creek time. It is back to Sandown. The Tingle Creek is on, and it is the return of Altior. Calum, we're both very, very excited to see Altior, but do you think he's going to come back to the best?
Be exciting to find out. I think this is one of the reasons why you love the game, to see if Altior come back season after season, wondering if he's still on it. The only clue we have this season is his galloping session at Newbury with Epatante, where Epatante did travel all over him, to be fair.
Yeah, I think he did as well, yeah.
The schooling reports at the Henderson Yard always seem positive. He does have £2 in hand over Politolog, and Politolog didn't run well at all in this last year. Grenadine interests me more at the Paul Nicholls pair. I think he might be the one to take to oppose Altior if you want. At 45, is he a bet? he probably is, because I think he will beat Politolog. Whether Grenadine can improve to hurt him, I'm not sure, but I just fancy the young up-and-comer to run a big race, and he's got race fitness in his side.
Definitely, I think that as well. I think as well, we were talking about Altior last year, obviously, as a potential horse going up in trip. At the 2 mile, at the minimum trip, yeah, Altior's one of the best horses I've ever seen, but we need to take into account just how much last year took out of him. And I think that could potentially be the reason. I'm beginning to oppose him with this. I'm beginning to kind of lean with you with Grenadine. I would love to see Altior coming back here, but I can't. I'm very surprised.
I think he could. I mean, the run before, I think in the Game Spirit, before he was meant to go to Cheltenham, was quite encouraging. He came back and he won it. He won quite well after being bottom, and it bottom surname as well. That race at Ascot when they went up and trip. It's interesting because every time you see Altior being mentioned by Nicky Henderson, you think he's the fastest horse he's seen. He's so fast at home. But in the race course, every time he wins over 2 miles, you think, well, he's actually not that quick. The best work he puts in is when the turbo kicks in towards the line.
Yeah, right.
You think he could be a 2.5 mile operator down the line.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of it's the age thing that might be more of a niggle than whether he retains his ability. Undersow had his limit, and that limit was when he hit 11. He had one swan song in the Tingle Creek last year where he pushed Effie de Soy very, very close by a neck. And I'm just wondering, is Altior going to go the same way? I don't think he's had as much races as Undersow, and not at an intermediate trip either, so he might have more left in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful that he's got another year in him. And as Henderson said before as well, he did it with Sprinter. So I think there's still a potential good year for him.
I'm really looking forward to this race. I think it's certainly going to be one to watch.
Yeah.
I probably won't have a bet, but if I was betting, I'd probably back Grenadine.
Yeah, so I would think maybe a forecast with Altior, or a reverse forecast, something like that.
Definitely. There's another Grade 1 at Sandown on Saturday. It's the Henry VIII Novice's Chase over 2 mile. It doesn't look in paper to be the best renewal of this race. I've certainly seen better renewals, but All Mankind's 9-4 favourite. We've got Hitman at 3-1. We've got the likes of Fusil Raffles, Gallo, and Phoenix Way could all show up here. But what's you kind of thinking with this race? Because nothing's screaming out to me.
No, one has to prove himself to be a superstar. Potentially that could be All Mankind with his jumping. It's quite good, but he'll be pestered for the lead with GA Law.
Yeah. And
you'd have to think Hitman and Eldorado Allen will be trying to lurk in behind. So from a tactical perspective, I think this race is it's going to be quite fascinating. At the prices, the one I would like, the two I like would be Eldorado Allen and Phoenix Way.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that they've kept Phoenix Way, Harry Fry to 2 miles, when most people I think would probably bring him back to a 3 miler.
Yeah.
All Mankind's form has kind of been well advertised as well, I think, previously. So he could be good enough to go out and make all, and if he does, it'd be fairly spectacular. And I think he might be of consideration for the Arkle each way, maybe in behind Shishkin down the line. But yeah, I'll be very surprised after this race if I see something that I think, yeah, he could beat Shishkin. I don't think I will.
No, nothing will beat Shishkin here. But if I was backing anything, I think I would back Hitman. I think he's been the most impressive out of these and over fences so far. He won a good. I think he won at Foss last. It was pretty impressive there. But again, it's one of those races where you could just sit. I would just sit back anyway and see what kind of catches my eye. I probably won't have a bet. We'll move on to Aintree. We've got the Many Clouds Chase where we have the return possibly of Santini, second in last year's Gold Cup. This could be this could be a very, very good test for Santini. Native Rivers also entered here. Do you think Santini's going to win here? I think it could be very, very interesting, this race.
I'd expect it to. If you want to win a Gold Cup, I think you'd be looking to try and take this on the way. It's a good starting point for them. We've got Native River and Frodon in there at the minute. If they both stay their ground, you'd imagine that they might take each other on up front.
Mm-hmm.
And over a 3 mile trip at Aintree and soft ground, I would expect Santini to be good enough to hold his position and stalk them and probably pick them off. He's a complex ride, and he doesn't have Nico de Boinville with him because he's at Sandown with Altior.
Yeah.
So Jerry McGrath's going to be riding him, and that's a huge opportunity for him.
Definitely.
Delighted for him. It's good. It's good for him because he gave Flores a brilliant ride at Newcastle
He did that,
on the weekend
yeah.
in a fairly high-profile race from the front. Beware the Bear in the Ultima. He said he's big day in the handicap, so it's nice to see him getting a very, very attractive ride in a big race like this.
Mm-hmm. I think what the way you're saying there about Nate Fridlin throwed on, if that happens, I think Santini will be very, very hard to beat. I think as well, Santini's got stamina, and Santini does. It's only 3 miles. The Gold Cup's 3 mile too. Santini should have enough here. I think Santini's very, 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 very. I think he's rock solid. I think he's only 11 to 8. I think that's a great price.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's worth playing.
Definitely. But we'll move on to Sunday. There's a big race in Punchestown in Ireland. We've got the John Durkin Chase, 2 mile 4, where Min, Battle Over Doyen, Sam Crow, and potentially Allaho could all line up here. This could be a very, very good race, Carl.
Yeah, could be. The first one I was drawn to was Battle Over Doyen. Again, race fitness angle.
Yeah.
It'll probably be quite soft over there. It's been there in Ireland all season. So Min, he usually runs quite well fresh. I'll be interested in Sam Crow will no doubt come on for his run as well. It's whether his jumping will hold up to the pace that Mins does is maybe a slight question mark for him. I'll be surprised if Allaho comes here. Potentially could.
I think there's another entry he's got over the weekend.
Yeah, he's got other entries elsewhere. He's interesting as well. I'd like to see him kind of freewheel and do quite well. And he would cement himself as a leading Ryanair player that I think most people think he is.
Yeah, I think that as well. And that is your look at what's coming up this week. We'll move on to our Ante Post picks now. We've had a few so far, and we're going to have a look at them over the screen now. And we'll move on to what we've got this week. Callum, where's your Ante-Post pick coming from this week?
It's in the Supreme Overseas Hurdle, and it's a horse called Dusart at 14-1.
Yep.
Nicky Henderson team. I know Flinter Sacre disappointed at Ascot Friday, 2-5, was beat. But this might not be his supreme horse. It might just be Dusart, who we've only seen once very early on.
Yeah.
First episode in this show. It's the first horse we talked about. Owned by Ronnie Bartlett, half brother to Simon Sig, and he just looks a bit more forward than Flinter Sacre. He beat a decent horse in Soaring Glory of John Joe O'Neill's.
Yeah.
And the horse that Soaring Glory beat before he was beaten by Dusart was Brave Man's Game of Paul Nicholls.
Yeah.
And Brave Man's Game has came out and been a thumping winner, and is now rated 141 officially, probably a bit better than that. Dusart, I think, is at least on a par with that over 2 miles. So again, we're talking probably about a mid 145 operator, in my opinion. And I think that Ballyadam is about that standard at the moment. So I don't see why Dusart is 14-1. You can get 16-1 places if you shop about. In comparison to Ballyadam at 6-7-1. I think he's too big. He's a little bit forgotten about. He's not quite been forgotten about in the market. And this Supreme does not look as good as last year's.
No.
And at the moment, I don't see a standout candidate. And I think Nicky Henderson likes to run his best Novice Supreme anyway. You wouldn't be afraid of not going there with him. He went there with all that in Ronnie Bartlett's colours last year. He was a 50-1 chance. He was backed in at 20-1 on the day. He finished 5th. He was very good that day. Chantry House was 3rd.
Yeah.
And Shishkin won it in 1st. So Henderson's 3 horses all ran well. He's won it with Altior as well before. Bouverdare's ran in it. Basically, every single good horse that Nicky Henderson has had over that trip has been in the Supreme, and it usually runs its race.
Yeah.
And I would expect Dusart to be in a similar mould.
Definitely. I think that's a rock solid pick right now. 14-1's a great price for Dusart. We'll move on to mine. I'm going to go for a horse in Albert Bartlett who ran against Ballyadam on Sunday. I'm going to go for Ngolo, who's sitting at 25-1. Potentially might not go to this race, but I think he's got the champagne fever mould of just a battler, and I think that that could potentially scream out to me to be an Albert Bartlett horse. The combination's done really well in this race before with the likes of Monkfish, and they've ran a few good horses in it. They ran A1 last year in it as well. Could have a very good chance. I don't. Again, it's just I'm hanging myself to the sword here that it's definitely going to go to Albert Bartlett, but it's about 20-1 to win any race. But I think 25-1 to win the Albert Bartlett right now, I think could be good value.
Hopefully, Holy Macapone wins it firstly. But yeah, he could do. You'd like to see his next race over 2.5 miles for sure, whether he's an Albert Bartlett horse.
Definitely.
At the moment, I'd paint him in as a little bit of a Ballymore contender. But we'll see. Yeah, we could get accurate in time. I mean, Willie Mills has got so many novices that he can juggle about and see what happens.
And that is our Ante-Post picks for the week. That will do us for this week. I wanted to say thanks very much to Calum for coming on again.
Thanks again. Pleasure as always.
Pleasure. And we will be back next week. We will be running down what has gone on over the last week, and we'll be making more Ante-Post picks. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.